In this video, we will teach our controller how to move the quadrant objects to blend our tracks. To do this, we use a function called CycleBranchFrame. This will use keyframes on the timeline to turn our direction values into blending values on the tracks. The orient values are -2 to +2, so set keys on our quadrants at those corresponding frames. Frame -2 to +2. So frame -2 and +2 are the same according to our rotations, and so those will represent the back quadrant. Frame negative and +1 will be the left and the right quadrants, and frame 0 is going to represent the front quadrant. So let's set keyframes on those. Make sure you're in the Animate tab. I'm going to pick cue forward, right, back, and left, and go to frame -2, tap the Enter key, and we'll create key for our selections. Frame -2, -1, everything has a keyframe at frame 0, +1, and +2. If you have any other keyframes selected, right-click to deselect them. So we'll start with frame -2. Frame -2, we're going to pick the back quadrant and set its Z value to 1. Everything else is at 0. So frame -1, we're going to pick the left quadrant, set its Z value to 1. So it's starting at 0, now it's going to move its value up to 1, and then its value is going to go back down to 0 when we hit frame 0, which happens to be cue forward's area. Cue forward is going to fade up to 1, which blends to our forward walk. Cue forward blends back down to 0, and we get cue right fading up to 1. And as we go back to frame 2 and frame -2 are the same, so that means the rear quadrant. So now we have defined all of the values that these quadrants need to move in. The last part of this equation is to tie our CycleBranch function into those timeline values. Go to the Command tab, let's create another variable, and we'll call this variable Program Drivers, since this is going to drive our quadrants. And the expression is called CycleBranchFrame. CycleBranchFrame is going to take a hierarchy, and the hierarchy is going to look at a specific frame to get a value to set itself. So in our case, we are going to look for the controller hierarchy, copy its Z position, and the keyframe value, where the keyframes lie, is actually going to be our direction variable. So right-click on our expression to add that to the variable. So now we have CycleBranchFrame. So pick our main object, which represents the main bone on our character. It's facing forward, so it's always going to be blending the forward track. So the forward quadrant is faded up to 1. As we rotate sideways, the forward track fades down and the right track fades up. As we face backwards, the same thing happens, and we just keep moving. We face to the left, it fades in the left, and we go back up to the top. So because we're processing this within a variable, once we hit past 360 degrees, our EPWrapPy wraps it back around again, and the right value goes back into the program drivers, telling it what frame to properly move. Not bad blending 4 animations with a single rotation, but we can do better, much better. Go into Animate, reset this rotation back to 0, and go to File and save this scene.